All right. I think we're live. If anyone can hear me, just push 1 in the chat. All right. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 766, Black Politics. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible, and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust. There'll be a link in the chat for you to join if you want to engage in the discussion. Just give me 1 second and let me grab the link, drop it in the chat, and we can get started. I'm sorry, I was talking and I was muted, didn't even realize that. What I wanted to do tonight was actually answer a question in a statement that's constantly made by certain people who talk about politics, right? I want to play a clip from Dr. Thunder. Dr. Thunder had a very interesting discussion about a day or so ago. And so let me grab Dr. Thunder's clip and then let me pull it up on the screen. And then we can, it's a short clip, so it's only about 10 seconds, but it helps you understand the context of where we're coming from. All right, this is from Dr. Thunder. Credit goes to Dr. Thunder. The title of the video is at Thomas Sowell TV makes an appearance on Fresh and Fit Miami. Let me just play this real quick.
Over substance thing. That's why that is a thing. That's why that sort of, calling dudes corny and that being like a valid reason to reject them. That's why that's a thing. That's why, why you talk so proper, why you talking white. That's why that's a thing. Is because of the power of culture and the tendency for Black people to sort of congregate around the same ideas and the same beliefs. That's why the whole voting for Democrats as a bloc. That's why that's a thing.
Voting for Democrats as a bloc, okay? That's why that's a thing, right? This idea that, Black people just blind sort of conceptual thought for themselves that they can actually no sort of agency where they can actually, think for themselves and make a conscious decision. So I won't go. Well, let me play a little bit more than what he says.
Is because we're highly impressionable by group movement, by groupthink, and is hyper individualistic. Is we try to act like we are with respect to style and, hey, we doing it our way and all that kind of stuff. It tends to be all the same stuff. It's like you have a few archetypes, you have a few, different ways, different approaches to that, but it's all the same stuff. So then when you actually are somebody that's on, is about substance.
Anyways, I'm not going to go into everything else that he's saying, but the point of the matter here is this: Black people somehow vote for themselves, and they can't somehow think for themselves. So it's this kind of group think. I may be mischaracterizing what he's saying, but I really want to focus on Black people voting Democrat. Right? There's this idea that you shouldn't vote, your interests or vote Democrat or anything like that. So let me admit some of these people that's coming on. MOT, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Show, man. Let me also add this response as to justification as to why Black people vote the way that they vote. Aunt T, what's going on, man?
All right, my bad. I had an audio issue before. What's going on, Big Dog?
I'm chilling, bro. First time up here?
Yeah. This is my first time on your panel, but definitely glad to be here. Now, I just saw the topic just came in, so maybe I can add a few things. I think so.
Okay. Just give me a second. Let me pull up the next clip here. It's really important. It's really important. Whoops. Let me share my screen, and then we'll get started.
August, the state's Democratic Party met to select delegates to the National Convention. As usual, blacks were not allowed to participate, but this would be no ordinary election year. 2 weeks later, the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party chose its own delegates to challenge the right of the all-white regulars to represent the state. The MFDP emphasized that it was open to all citizens.
The Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party is only beginning, and it is beginning on the basis that it believes that a political party should be open to all the people who wish to subscribe to its principles. That means it's open to even the son of the planter on whose plantation you work, if that son has reached the point that he's willing to subscribe to your principles.
The MFDP delegation of 64 blacks and 4 whites prepared to leave for Atlantic City. Their goal was to be seated at the Democratic National Convention as the true representatives of their home state. For many, it was their first trip out of Mississippi. For all, this was the culmination of Freedom Summer, the final opportunity to open up Mississippi to the nation. Atlantic City, New Jersey, site of the 1964 Democratic Convention. Lyndon Johnson expected no opposition in getting his party's nomination, but was concerned the MFDP would disrupt party unity. With the arrival of the Freedom Democrats on August 20th, there were now 2 delegations in town from Mississippi. The Democratic Party would have to decide which would represent the state on the convention floor. That decision would be made by the Credentials Committee. On Saturday, August 22nd, America watched this nationally televised hearing.
It is the very terror that these people are living through that is the reason that Negroes aren't voting that they're kept out of the Democratic Party by the terror of the regular party. And what I want the Credentials Committee to hear is the terror which the regular party uses on the people of Mississippi, which is what Reverend King was explaining, which is what Aaron Henry was explaining, and which is what the next witness will explain, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Rooseville, Mississippi. Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stinnett. If the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily, because we want to live as decent human beings in America?
We will return to this scene in Atlantic City, but now we switch to the White House and NBC's Robert Goralski.
Lyndon Johnson cut off coverage of MFDP testimony by making a last-minute request for network airtime.
We had an hour before the Credentials Committee. Fannie Lou Hamer made her famous pitch. Martin Luther King. We had the greatest array of people you have ever can imagine, and the Credentials Committee was very impressed. But Johnson was not.
Despite the TV cut off by the president, Mrs. Hamer's message had gotten through. Viewers back home sent telegrams to delegates, urging support of the MFDP. But President Johnson was afraid Southerners would desert the party if the MFDP were seated. He began pressuring liberals close to the Freedom Democrats. Senator Hubert Humphrey, a longtime champion of civil rights, was feeling that pressure. Many believed he would not be selected for the vice presidency unless he helped stop the MFDP.
My only interest in this is an attempt to try to bring about a reconciliation of views in the hopes to keep our convention united with one objective: to defeat Mr. Goldwater in November and to carry forward the Democratic program.
Humphrey assigned Walter Mondale, his young protege from Minnesota, to work out a solution.
See, everybody was trying to think of something that was simple and would solve it and would satisfy everybody. The problem was there was no such solution. And so we'd go around and around and around, and everybody'd try this and try that, and writers would see if they could write around the problems, and philosophers see if they could dream of something to dream over the problem. It wouldn't go away. It had to be resolved. It had to be compromised, I think, in the way that we did it, and it was inevitable that some people would be unhappy.
The committee did come up with a compromise. It offered the MFDP 2 seats at large, meaning they would not represent the state of Mississippi. It allowed the all-white regulars to be seated only if they would swear loyalty to the Democratic ticket. Finally, the committee promised to bar from future conventions any delegation guilty of discrimination. In response, all but 4 of the all-white regulars walked out of the convention.
It may not satisfy everybody, the extremes on the right or the extremes on the left. But we think it is a just compromise. We think it is based soundly on the law. We think it clearly recognizes, without compromises, the basic devotion of this party to human rights. And we think it represents and sets the stage for the overwhelming victory of the man who, more than anybody else in the world, represents the cause of justice and law today, President Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Lyndon Johnson announced that Hubert Humphrey would be his running mate before boarding the plane for the convention. In Atlantic City, the Freedom Democrats had not yet decided whether to accept or reject the compromise.
We've got an offer to our people. We've got a great deal out of this. I think to call this a loss is a bad mistake.
You were talking before of no compromise. Now you've got your 2 delegates in. The regular party's gotten 3. Do you think you've made substantial gains?
I think we made a terrific gain. You always talk no compromise at a convention until you get the best you can, then you quit.
Are the leaders of the Freedom Democrats satisfied?
I don't think so, and I don't blame them. Nobody ever gets all they want. The leaders of the regulars aren't satisfied either. They're going back to Jackson.
Let my people go.
Political allies and national civil rights leaders urged the MFDP to accept the compromise, but the Freedom Democrats voted overwhelmingly to turn it down. In the words of Fannie Lou Hamer, "We didn't come all this way for no 2 seats when all of us is tired."
The whole issue around the compromise for us and for me was that it was some kind of political ploy that they understood. But for us, for Mississippi, it was what was right and what was wrong. It was, we had been done wrong. Our rights had been taken away. And you just couldn't issue some 2 seats at large to correct that. And it was a moral situation that had to be right. So it wasn't just a political something to get away with, is that we sit in the rooms and negotiate. You know, they knew about those kind of things, but we didn't. How to sit in the rooms and negotiate way and say, we'll take the best of this, a piece of that. We went after what was right, and it was wrong the way we had been treated for hundreds and hundreds of years. Denied the right to register to vote, denied the right to participate in the political process, and that's what was going on.
The MFDP delegates made one last appeal for national attention. They tried to sit in the seats abandoned by the Mississippi regulars.
Hey, will you identify yourself for us, please?
My name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer. I'm the vice chairman of the Freedom Democrat Party.
Where did you get the credentials to get into the building tonight, Mrs. Hamer?
Some law friends of ours gave us an invitation to come in. We sit with them a while, and we wanted to sit in our own state.
Do you have any kind of credentials that will get you into these seats?
No, we don't. Only as American citizens.
Mr. Sergeant at Arms, have you had any contingency plans for this? None at all. I just stand here peacefully, trying to keep this aisle clear.
Mississippi, when they are before the eyes of the world, they are peaceful and loving. And when they get back to Mississippi, it's, nigger, you can't come in here. Nigger, you can't come in there. Nigger, you get out. And here we are in the eyes of the world, seeing the same thing that happens way down in the deep south, Mississippi.
The MFDP was never seated at the 1964 convention, but their protest opened up the Democratic Party and changed national politics. For some, Atlantic City ended in disillusionment. They had lost faith in America's leaders, but they had come to know their own power.
So, now that we have the history down, there should be no misunderstanding as to how we got here and what it took to get here.
That was from Eyes on the Prize, right, Mike?
Yes.
Yeah. Great. It's I believe it's is it 10 parts? 10 episodes, maybe 12.
Yeah, I think it's like 12 hours or something like that, 13 hours.
Yeah, that's what the Manosphere really needs to be. Instead of having 12, 13-hour live streams, they need to watch a 12, 13-hour stream of Eyes on the Prize, get the history. Great, but on all joking aside, great documentary. I've actually seen it all. If you haven't, I strongly encourage you to. There's so many details people don't know that are left out. And it just gives you a greater sense of self and greater sense of purpose.
MLT?
Yeah. The problem is it should be grounds for you to be kicked out of education, whether you're tenure or not, asking questions like that and deliberately going out of your way to not learn the history. deliberately going out of your way to not understand the actual history, and then sit here and leverage everybody else's political contributions to the process while they sit here and not do a damn thing, but discuss what women chooses and all this other nonsense, when they could be focusing on something far more productive. It's nuts.
Auntie?
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. You definitely have to study the history just to be able to even make a move for the future, because not having knowledge is one thing, that's a certain type of power you're going to have, but applied knowledge is the power that you want. So in order to be able to apply this knowledge, you're going to have to be able to gain it first, study it, spot the patterns, and then try to kind of make the best decisions for yourself, for your family, for your community, wherever it is that you want to go. But, just like MOT just said, a lot of people don't even want to take the time to study the history. It's just easier to talk about what you're comfortable talking about. So that's what you got in the space.
That's a sad fact too. The fact that, Black men don't want to study their own history. Black men who came before them. It's honestly, one of the things I enjoy most is learning more about Black history. Documentaries like that are always amazing to watch, books, anything. So when you have guys who don't even want to do that, it's just like, I kind of don't identify with these people. I don't know what's wrong with them.
No, it's just that it's not a jab at the other content creator, Dr. Thunder. But it's more of a highlight of, this is the thought process of a lot of Black men in the space who claim, either that they're conservative, or they don't agree with leftist politics, or they have these sort of ambiguous positions that they take. But all at the end of the day, it always ends up back at the position of conservatism or right-wing thought. And so when you hear people say like, oh man, well, it's kind of like Black people blindly voting Democrat. They're not blindly voting Democrat. They're voting Democrat because that's where their civil rights and their constitutional rights seem to be respected the most. At the end of the day, whether you think Jim Crow Joe is the same as he was when he first came in, or you think that Kamala Harris is incompetent, at the end of the day, the party, for what it stands today, is the only institutional party that upholds Black people's civil rights and constitutional rights at the end of the day. And so I hear these sort of talking points in this space, man. It's like nails to a chalkboard. And I'm like, I just don't understand why you don't know your own history. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah. And like I said, what makes it even worse too is like, when you make that suggestion of, well, why do Black people keep voting Democrat? They don't get anything. It's very paternalistic and condescending. And I don't even know if they realize that, because it's like, you really think a group of 40 million people are really so stupid that they can't figure out like what party has their best interests at heart, and like you as this minority, this one-off voice that they've all got it wrong, and I've got it all right. That's literally what the right wing does in general. When you see these people like a Jesse Lee Peterson or Armstrong Williams, sadly Ben Carson, these people, they basically play that role of, hey, I'm this one Black person who will vote conservative and make it sound like, man, if all other Black people just did what I did, everything would be solved.
All right. So yeah, if I can jump in for a second here. See,
yes, sir.
And this is one of the things, it's common misconception. Most people lack political maturity. So people assume that to be conservative means to go right wing. And then to be liberal means to go left wing, go Democrat. Conservative means Republican, liberal means Democrat, which is not the case. Those are, literally two different coins. They're two sides of each one is two sides of a coin, but they're two different coins. You can be conservative and still be a Democrat. You can be liberal and still be a Republican. They're totally different things. So my issue with a Jesse Lee Peterson or whatever is, or most of these people that have just flipped to conservative, it's not that Democrats have their best interests in heart, in mind. It's that they've actually chosen a side. The way I see it, the reason why it's so tough for people to determine which of these political parties have their best interest at heart is because neither one of them do. They're left wing, right wing, it's the same bird. None of them really have the best interests of Black people at heart. It's just one is a little bit better at pandering to the emotions of Black folks. And thus you have 60 years of voting the same way, 70 years of voting the same way, no changes, because they don't have to be any. We're going to get your vote without you demanding anything anyway, which I don't think it would be any different if they voted Republican. I don't think it would be any different. They take advantage of you too, because you're not asking for anything in return.
Go ahead, Moti.
Yeah, but we know that there's things that happen on one side versus the other. And the thing is that I welcome anybody to join the conservative side and go actually lobby for things over there on that side. I mean, you have to understand that, you know what, the Cleveland Browns didn't manage their front office as well as the Patriots did. But guess what? They're still in the same league and will have a level of success over the other. I understand that, but we want to leverage everybody else's voting potential and capacity throughout the years where we don't even individually do what we need to do within our own city and town that we're actually in. Like I say, Colorado works well. When I first got there in the late 90s, it didn't look it's a pretty right-wing place outside of the Denver metro area. And now all the great stuff is in all the democratically run areas. And the people who don't want to live in civilized society live out there in the middle of nowhere. And that's just the way it is. It's just that it's always been that. It's like, you have to understand that you have to pick a side. You have to. You live in a democracy. And if you don't want to pick a side, then you should have zero complaints about how things are running. Period. That's just the way this is. I mean, people want their team to do this, that, and the other when they have sports teams. Their sports teams, you don't agree with all the front office decisions, all the trades, all the everything that happened, but you still watch them anyway, and you're still a fan of them anyway. Politics is no different. You're not going to like all the moves, but at the end of the day, you got to know full steam what's actually going on in the area, so that way you can be able to collectively move. Most of these votes are about stopping bad things from happening.
That you nail on the head. A lot of it is harm reduction. That's one thing that happens a lot of times. But I would say too, two things. I like Auntie, to your point, on you can be a liberal and be a Republican or a conservative Democrat. That is true. Now, what is happening now, and I think why part of the reason people may be getting it mixed up is basically things are becoming more polarized. So like, yeah, maybe 20, 30 years ago, you did have conservative and even liberal, you had conservative Democrats, blue dogs, and you even had some more progressive or liberal type of Republicans. But basically the parties have become so polarized that now liberal essentially means someone who's a Democrat, and conservative that basically means someone who is a Republican for the most part. The other thing too, though, when people say like, hey, people vote for 50 years and don't get anything, I don't even think that reflects voting for the same party. If people really want to, have a critique, I think the critique is you've got to look at the fact that, even that Black folks, at least the way we're dispersed, we're not really maximizing our political power. So we always come up against the right. But then also, number two, when you look at people who do have power within the political parties, they didn't gain it by leaving their party and going to the opposite party. I mean, if you even look right now, Matt Gaetz, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they have an outsized influence right now. And that's really because people who were in their seats got primaried out. And they basically had enough influence within the base to basically make Kevin McCarthy give them everything for, the seats they got. Now, is that really like power that's going to make a difference? That's yet to be seen. But I guess my greater point is that when you look at, how the Republican Party has operated and the people who have gotten a stranglehold on the party, they never talked about becoming Democrats. They just organized and pushed people out of power and out of leadership who they felt weren't serving their interests.
No, I mean, look, I would agree. I would agree with that, to an extent, to go to what MOT just said, as far as like, you have to pick a side when you are living in a democracy and all of this stuff is documented. You actually don't. You're supposed to be voting in your own best interest. And the parties and the candidates that they've given you do not give you anything that's in your best interest, you don't have to choose the lesser of two evils. Now, granted, you probably won't see the results that you want in that particular election, but over the course of time, there are campaign managers, there are people that study these statistics, and they will see whoever lost, you know what I'm saying, is going to see where they lost X amount of votes. You know what I'm saying? Then they're going to have to try to cater to that target demographic for whatever reason if they want to win the next election. Okay, that's why you see it. As you see it on MSNBC all of the time. They say, oh, well, if Stacey Abrams doesn't win, it's because black males did not vote for her. They know where they're missing it. They know exactly where they're missing it. They just don't give a shit about you. That's the difference. But they know where they're missing it. If they cater to you, they could possibly get your vote. They just don't care to do it. You know?
Well, because black men are a swing vote.
Exactly. But the swing vote, if that's the only leverage that you have, you actually do have it. As 12 to 13% of the population, of course, you can't have your own party that's going to sway an entire election. But usually in most of these elections, when you sit out, the votes are so damn evenly divided that they end up having to count them all over again. It's something small. So that makes you the swing vote. At least that's the way it was for years. As the majority minority, blacks were the swing vote. So wherever you packed your votes onto, that's who won. Whether it was a Democrat or Republican, you put 80, 90% of your votes, which most black people do, behind one particular party, that's who's probably going to win. So common sense would tell you, yo, they should be bidding on my vote. I don't just pick them because of what they're saying. You know, they should be bidded. My vote's up for auction. Well, you either give me what I want or I don't vote for either one of you.
Well, that's all Stacey Abrams was saying, Auntie. That's all she was saying. And see, what happened in the Manosphere is they grabbed a small clip of what she said. It was a meme, right? And then they kind of ran with it and tried to respond to it. But what she was saying was black men don't punch above their weight politically, because they have that swing vote. And so if they voted their capacity, then they would actually have a lot more say and a lot more power out of it, but they choose to stay home, like you hear some of these other jokers in the space say. Go ahead, Renaissance, please.
Well, no, I was going to say the other thing too you have to be aware of when you start talking about this at a more national political level and even the state level is that there's a segment of the Democratic Party who basically think, hey, black voters are not reliable voters. So that's where black men kind of shoot themselves in the foot and give away their political power of, hey, I'm going to sit at home. And all it does is enable a certain element of really the establishment and other more moderate / conservative factions of the Democratic Party to say, hey, no, you see, we should be going after the white working class. Like those people show up and vote. And see, that's what you've always had. And that's what the sort of the debate has been within the Democratic Party, with Bernie and really other politics, more progressive policies. You have a faction of black people and other black political strategists who are basically saying, hey, the base of the Democratic Party is essentially, the Obama coalition. It's black voters, it's young people, it's educated voters, and it basically it's liberal whites. And that you need to basically pander to not pander, because pander is not the right word. You need to tailor your message and your policies to those people. And there's another group of people who say, no, like, these Democrats who, were basically, Reagan Democrats, we can still go and get them. We just need to, drop basically all the racial stuff and, basically try to appeal to those people. And that's where, if people aren't careful, you can actually lose your political influence and prove people right.
I mean, I think we need to understand how politics works and everything else. Like, it is pretty much a quid pro quo. I would personally prefer that those that are uninformed don't bother voting. You're going to create more issues. You're just going to create more problems. If you're not an informed voter, why vote? If you don't know what the hell you're doing, you're going to Christmas tree it. Just sit home.
But Auntie, they have crash courses in most major cities. Every library has had, if you look up on your public library, if it's modern enough, I know in Boston, there's weekly classes for politics.
And I won't argue with you on that. But when you're talking about politics, you can tell me how politics works, but I still need to be able to apply that knowledge and understand how this is going to work for me. It requires a lot of studying on your own. Like you're not just going to learn that in the library. You got to understand where you are. You got to understand like literally geographically, and figuratively, all of that. Like you got to understand everything about what's going on, how these candidates, what their messages, how they pertain to you before you can even get into the driver's seat. Just like I think that was Renaissance Man that just said, and actually start putting your candidates on the ballot. Like put your candidates on the ballot instead of waiting until candidates are on the ballot and being surprised when they don't do anything for you after you vote. Like you didn't put them on the ballot in the first place. You're not their constituency, and that's what people forget. They vote based on a skin tone and their emotions, and
you vote on who's available. You vote on who's available. I mean, somebody can have a really great message, but if they don't have the money to back up their their agenda, or their campaign, then they're not going to get on the ballot. I mean, it costs money to get on the ballot in most places.
Correct.
I mean,
and most Black folks don't have that we don't have that money, that financial backing, or at least don't know how to pull it together to start backing our own candidates and putting them on those things. That's why I said we got to get that political maturity, because most of us are still listening to speeches, assuming that, hey, Democrats are for us and Republicans are not. It's like, you're not backing any of them. Like for the most part, the groups that these these parties actually do things for were usually the ones that put them there in the first place, or have some kind of constituency that helped to put them there in the first place, or what's keeping them there now. If they know that they're going to get your vote without having to give you any, it's like a job. If you're going to work it without a wage, why should the boss tell you to go home? Take the free labor.
But there are things that you get out of one party over the other, and we have a historical representation of that. We have that. So here's the thing. Wait, hold on with Renaissance Man. Here's the thing for the people who are listening. If you stay your ass at home, nobody's going to pander to you. That's how that works. If they're already getting you not voting, and they don't have to pander to you, so that way you can further stay home, why on earth would they go out there for your vote? So this whole political saboteurism is trying to make people stay home, or trying to get people not to participate in the process. That's not how democracy works. If you want a voice, you show up. If you don't show up. Nobody's going to drag and scream your ass to come out and participate in a political process. This is not a parliamentary system. Power does not get divided up equally upon those who have lesser numbers. That's not how that works. If you do not show up, if you do not coalition build, you get nothing. No one, you vote your interest, which pretty much means vote your ignorance. Pretty much.
If that's what it is, I'm just saying, like, look, me personally, I've gone into the last two presidential elections and wrote none of the above in there. Got up 6:30 in the morning, physically went down there, no absentee ballot. That's it. None of the above.
And wasted your time?
I didn't waste anything. That vote was recorded. I was sitting home and doing nothing, would have done nothing. Vote. See, no. See, that's what that's why I want to explain. They already established that when Donald Trump beat Hillary, had those people that voted a third-party candidate put their votes behind Hillary, she'd have won. Okay, so those votes are recorded, the ones that went to nobody. So what did they try to do? The next election, they did everything they could to make sure that those undecided third-party voters went Democrat, so that way they wouldn't lose this time. That's what you do. You're supposed to analyze the data. That's what they were trying to do. That's why you see what you see on MSNBC. They're like, look, blackmail vote, whether they tried to do it with shame and tactics, I don't agree with the strategy, but they knew damn well where they're losing the elections. They know where they're losing them. So they're going to try. If they have any sense, that's what they're going to try to do. I'm just saying, you guys expect to see results and change within 3-4 years, one election. This didn't come up overnight. You got about 40, 50 more years, in my opinion, minimum, before you see real change.
So in the meantime, hold on, man. So in the meantime, since there's going to be 40 or 50 years of actual change that you want to see, you're not going to You're gonna wake up early. You're gonna show up, and you're just gonna.
No, we're gonna pretend like we don't have anything to lose in all this.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, if I can explain really quickly, I mean, look, as black folks, just like he said, black folks been picking a side because for the most part, it's not been about my best interest. I just want to be on the winning side. You've been picking a side, but yet you complaining about how far you are behind. So what really do you have to lose? You've been at the bottom since the beginning. You're still at the bottom now. So to not
You're
vote,
saying that you're at the bottom. We're not at the bottom.
I'm not at the bottom.
Like,
you're at the bottom of the socioeconomic totem pole. As a demographic,
maybe as a collective, but not
as a demographic, not you personally, and not me personally. I get what you mean.
But you're actually making the point. I'm not making that point.
I'm just saying I personally could care less who's in office because I'm a strategic planner as far as my life is concerned. So I don't give a damn if a Democrat is in office or a Republican is in office. Some things may be a little more difficult. Some things may be a little more difficult for me to move. So, you know what I'm saying? Some things I might have to go one route as opposed to another, but I'm gonna be successful regardless of which one of them are in office. It doesn't make me a damn difference. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. I disagree wholeheartedly with your assessment of that.
I'm just saying that's me personally. Now, if you need the government to help you to be successful, like that's the only way. Is if Democrats are in office, that's the only way you're gonna be a successful person. You're screwed in life.
No one has ever said that. No one has ever said that.
Dude.
So I'm just saying I'm not scared. I mean, as a black man in America, I've been through enough. I'm not scared of a Republican.
It's not a matter of being scared. It's a matter of being smart. You just said you were strategic, right? So why would you do something that's going to make your path, whatever your goal you're trying to achieve, more difficult? And then say, oh, are you scared? No, I'm strategic, like you said. I don't want to make it any more difficult than it needs to be. And I see a difference between the two parties.
Sometimes there's a difference, and in certain cases it's going to be a difference, but regardless, the results is still going to be the same. I'm going to strategically plan and I'll be all right. When you're talking about one of the demographics that have the highest wealth per capita, or one of the highest wealth per capita in the United States of America, you're talking about Asian Americans that have the lowest voter turnout.
So that's not
no, sir. That's incorrect. Auntie, that is incorrect. They organize on both sides. And you know what would happen, Auntie? They don't have people who talk all this strategicism and any of that stuff. You don't even know what they're doing. Look, I'm heavy in the Asian community, the Arab community, the Indian community. And here's what happens. They don't have people that talk like you're talking. They don't have people within their group that talk like that. They divide their group up. They're evenly on the left and they're evenly on the right. And they evenly also have to substantively work on something on both sides.
But here's the thing, MOT.
Wait, hold on. It's also very clear that if you go outside of that with some individualist stuff, you're put out the group, period. There is no such thing as I'm just going to sit here and strategically do things and not participate. No. There's 100% participation on both sides of the spectrum.
But MOT, here's the thing,
leveraging the other side.
But here's the thing.
Before you go, bro, go ahead.
Like,
my bad. Go ahead.
Here's the other thing. When you say Asian community, the politics of the quote unquote Asian community are not the same within every subgroup. Like that's another misnomer as well too. Like people do that with the Hispanic community. Like the Hispanic community in Florida is different from the one in New York. Likewise, like Chinese Americans.
If I can correct you just quickly, bro, the Hispanic community in Florida ain't like the Hispanic community in Florida, bro. It's all over. I'm in Florida, so I know, bro. For the most part, you know what I'm saying, Mexicans aren't going to have the same ideologies and voting as the Colombians or the Cubans or the Puerto Ricans and then it depends on where they are and how much money. Trust me, they're all on different pages.
Yeah,
but go ahead.
I'm saying that applies to Asians as well too. When you look at the different communities of people try to say that, and I'm like, okay, which Asian population are you talking about? Like, are you talking about Filipinos? Are you talking about like Chinese, Japanese, Koreans? Like, who are we talking about here? Because the politics are different.
I agree. I agree with that.
It's the same here in California as well with the Latino and Asian communities.
Yeah, no, it's the same in Denver as well. It's just that people have their assignments, they discuss the stuff, and they move on. It's not that big a deal to participate in a democracy, to have your voice being heard. Because when you have the initial level of productivity, you don't really have to worry about that much more than that. You just don't.
Yeah, let me read
go
this
ahead.
statement. Yeah, let me read the statement from the chat from T. Riddler. T. Riddler says, I keep trying to tell you, right or wrong, Black folks are increasingly getting fed up with the Democratic Party. You can't keep shaming or fear-mongering people to vote for you. Anybody want to take that on?
Yeah, I do. I agree 100%. I think it's the most insulting thing to shame people. And what I heard on MSNBC a few months back, oh, just get in line with Black women, don't vote for the oppressor, like shaming tactics and fear tactics or whatever. Like, I'm not scared of any politician. We done dealt with some of the worst, craziest, nastiest, racist politicians over the course of history, and we still here. So I think we'll be all right. I'm not worried about that. And if it takes a few years for everybody else to kind of spot the patterns that, look, ain't none of them really for us because they don't have to be. We just gonna pick a side no matter what. Like, they're just flipping a coin. You know.
So Auntie, let me ask you something. George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Do you support that?
Repeat that.
George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. Do you support that?
Yeah.
So which party?
I don't know all of the logistics and everything behind that act. So if you feel free to enlighten me, but just hearing it, I don't see how I could be against it.
I can enlighten you quickly. Or go ahead, Mike. Do you want to finish and then I'll?
No, I was just gonna ask him which party is for it and which party is against it.
I mean, I didn't know any party was actually against it.
Oh, really?
Okay, just for the record, George Floyd Policing Act would basically end qualified immunity. It would create a database for nationally. So when a police officer gets fired, basically, it'd be tracked nationally. So I can't, leave one state and go join another state, become a police officer there. I believe it would create a federal use of force standard. So basically some standardization across the boards. And I believe it also would ban no-knock warrants as well. And this did fall apart, and it was because of Republicans' refusal to move on qualified immunity.
Okay,
Tim Scott specifically.
Thank you. No, I can answer that now. Thank you for just clearing it up for me because I wasn't very knowledgeable about it. So thank you. Right there, what you see, those are just politics right there. If one party's going to be for it, the other party's going to be against it. That's what they do. They create gridlock with each other. They do that. They couldn't even agree on damn stimulus packages. If one person says we want to go up, the other one's going to say we want to go down. That's the way it is. They're the opposite. They don't agree on it.
Justifying the non-vote on the actual issue as just politics, rather than a complete side deciding not to vote for something that would help everybody else within this format.
As soon as it becomes a left-wing, right-wing issue, it becomes a political issue. We watched that with a global pandemic. You know what I'm saying? They do that with everything.
This is a constitutional issue. Like, Auntie, this is a constitutional.
That's what it should be. Like, I agree. That's what it should be, but that's not what it is.
Yeah, because one side is deliberately not making it a constitutional issue. Like, okay, so like, we used to get pulled over and all that stuff's out of our cars. Now they're not doing this shit to older white people. I just sit there and laugh. And at the end of the day, they didn't do shit when this shit was happening to us. But guess what? It's wrong whenever it happens at all. But at the end of the day, if people are not going to take a side on basic things like the Constitution, then nothing's ever going to work. You just can't write it off at, oh, that's just politics. No, there's a specific side that is specifically against this, and there's a specific side that is specifically for it, and you just can't write it off of, oh, it's just politics. Like, no, you got to be able to look at it a little bit more deeper than that.
I understand what you're saying, and I could say that it's wrong. But I understand how politics works. I see the trends in all of these political, all of these administrations and everything. And for the most part, they cause gridlock. When, when one controls the House, the other one controls the Senate. That's what they do. They block things. They just do. They block each other's things. And then when one comes into office after the other one, they try to undo what was just done. Regardless of how right or wrong it may be, or how good it may be for you, but still bad it may be for me, whatever. It's just the kind of the way politics in America works.
That's actually not true. If you look at this bill, it passed the House and it was a party line vote, which Democrats controlled the House. The Senate was split 50-50. They couldn't get 10 Republicans. You needed technically 60 votes to pass this. They couldn't get 10 Republicans to go along with the majority of Democrats who were trying to pass this bill. Like, I just don't see how this is a quote unquote politics. This is one party who is vehemently against this and another party who literally sponsored the bill, passed it in the House, and tried to pass it in the Senate.
I mean, you saw that during the State of the Union speech, how Republicans, didn't even want to acknowledge Tyree Nichols' family. I mean, that's the reality. I mean, you got a black man. In fact, you had several black men who were in the House and one in the Senate who basically are no different than the white counterparts that they vote with. And that's Tim Scott and Byron Donalds and a couple of those guys who couldn't even acknowledge Tyree Nichols' family. Couldn't even acknowledge the victims in Buffalo, the grandmothers of the black community who were executed by white supremacists. And you have people saying, well, that's just politics. I beg to differ. I think it starts with white supremacy first, and then it can get down to to partisan politics. But you have to accept that it's a two-party system. One party's against the bill that's in the best interest of black men, and the other party is against it. And sitting at home is not an option at this point.
Look at what happened to Mike with the Black Farmers Bill. That was passed by a black senator, specifically elected in Georgia. I'm sorry. He was the one who put it into the CARES Act. It got passed. And then the first people to go and sue were conservatives. And it's still in court. And farmers have still not received any sort of compensation. Yep. I just don't get how we can really sit here and say that they're the same. And when they go against each other, it's just politics.
I mean, I think it's the same because look, like I said, you're saying one party is okay with seeing, police just kill black men, and the other party is okay with seeing black men wearing dresses. Pick the lesser of two evils there. Which would you prefer?
I didn't know dresses were on the ballot.
Them are good for black men. What do you?
I didn't know dresses were on the ballot, Auntie. I
didn't know dresses were on the ballot. That's kind of the way it is when you're talking about these far left politics and everything else. So I'm just saying, you're just talking about one thing. I'm talking about a bunch of different things right here. So I don't think either of these parties are really doing anything that's in the best interest of black men. None of them are.
Well, stay home.
We just gave you two bills that are, I mean, when you start talking about, we just gave you literally two bills, like one that got passed and is being sued by conservatives. Like if the black farmers are left, they're going to be predominantly black men, even though they're older and they're like 2% of the farming population. And if you start talking about the ones that have been actually looking at ones who had to lose their land because they were discriminated against, those are disproportionately black men. I mean, same thing with this policing reform bill. Black police violence is disproportionately affecting black men. I don't get where we're going here.
Police violence, mass incarceration, all of that's disproportionately affecting black men. Absolutely. I agree 100% on that.
Okay, Auntie.
And there are a lot of other things that are messing up, that are disproportionately affecting black men as well. As far as, the education reform and everything else, the fact that they're putting our young boys on drugs and diagnosing them with all types of illnesses and disorders and everything just because they're normal boys. You know what I'm saying? Because they have a little more energy.
Was this on the ballot?
You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know how to communicate with them. Things like that. Like that disproportionately affects young black boys.
But isn't that a school policy issue? Like that's more anything that has more to do with if anything that has to do with your school board, if you're talking about an external body or the school psychiatrist. I'm not sure what that does have to do with a presidential election.
When you're talking about education reform and everything else across the board, all of that has to do with the administration that's in place because your president is actually going to appoint those people.
No, actually, Auntie, let me correct you on that. I have a kid in elementary school, right? So it's actually down to the school district level. That's where it's at. This is going to be district, county before it comes down because counties and school districts can determine what curriculum they're going to allow in. Certain things that they allow in, they're going to receive funding for. Other things they can reject it, and then guess what? They won't receive the state funding for it, right? And that's all going to be based on school district. And the school, the people, what is it? I'm having a loss.
The school board.
The school board. Yeah.
I mean, I just believe, and I'm going to kind of pivot a little bit, but I believe black folks, especially black men, we're going to continue to be behind until we understand how this works, and the fact that whether you like it or not, it's business, and you're going to have to make deals. And the three main components of any deal are going to be, number one, trust. Doesn't mean you got to like somebody, but you got to trust them to do what the hell it is that they're going to do. Number two is leverage. You're going to have some leverage, and you're going to have to be able to negotiate. If you have no trust, you have no
what
leverage.
You were saying, Auntie. I'm sorry, I had stepped away for a second.
No,
what
I was
saying that.
Yeah, you're gonna have to be able to do business and close deals. There's got to be trust. There's got to be leverage, and there's got to be the ability
when you
to
say
negotiate.
Do business and close deals, like in regards to, that's the part I missed. What are you saying?
When these people present bills and this type of reform and everything else, at some point you're gonna have to be able to reject something and come back to the table and say, you know what, I'll take this, but I want this included in there too.
Wait, are you saying this from the position?
I like this, but I want that out of there.
Are you saying this from the position or the perspective of a politician, constituent, a stakeholder? Like what position are you saying this from?
I'm saying it from the sake of from the perspective of an educated voter. At some point, you're going to have to negotiate. You can't just take what they give you and say, okay, that's cool. You got my vote. Like at some point, there's got to be some kind of leverage, and you got to be able to negotiate. If they know that you will only negotiate with them and you will not negotiate with the other side, why are they ever going to give you what's in your best interest?
Wait, can I ask one question, Auntie? Can you demonstrate someone who's effectively, like, what group of people do you see doing this in America who are doing it successfully?
I mean, you can bring up just about any other group that actually benefits from politics. I mean, if you want me to bring up the alphabet community, I mean that's number one.
So when did they ever in mass talk about going and voting for Republicans?
No, they really don't. What they do is they put they back their candidates before they get on the ballot, get them on the ballot, and then they threaten to open up their damn file if they don't do what the hell is supposed to be done.
Okay, but just to address what you're saying, I'm not saying that you're inaccurate in what you're saying. However, that's not the constituency that drives that. That's actually going to be on the bureaucratic or the business side of things, right? That push these agendas through the politicians, right? Then it's up to the constituency, right, to pick or choose, right? Their vote is just that. It's a vote. Right. And that's pretty much the power that lies within the constituency as a vote. Hey, you politician, tell me what I like to hear, or I'm going to vote for that guy. That's pretty much the amount of power a voter has. Right. Versus if we're on the other side of the veil. Right. And what we're doing is we're saying, OK, as tech company owners, as entity owners, as nonprofit operators, as these various types of people, we're trying to get behind politicians to drive like a greater narrative for us, right? And so that's where you're talking about, okay, well, the shit can kind of be bought and sold. And I understand it. That was why a couple of minutes ago I asked you, are you speaking from the position of a stakeholder, i.e. what I was just speaking about, a politician themselves, or the constituency, the voter? That's why I asked.
Okay, so let me just give an example. All right, so I'm in the state of Florida. All right, a few years ago, Andrew Gillum was up for election for the governor's race. So many people that I knew, friends, family members, people on social media, are like, you have to vote for Andrew Gillum. I'm like, why? Why? The man's trying to put a state tax on Floridians. Number one, that's crazy. Number two, the only thing when they asked about education reform, the only thing that he said was just pay teachers more. Nothing about changing the curriculum, nothing about training them better, making sure that they're educated a little bit better, bringing some, giving, just better candidates as teachers, just giving them more incentive to come from elsewhere to the state. They would just pay them more. So
isn't that a conservative idea though? Isn't that like a free market? Isn't that like a free market idea that if you pay people more, you'll get better quality candidates?
Look, I'm a registered independent. I don't care about whether or not it's conservative, liberal. The whole state tax on Floridians threw me off rip. Okay, I'm just saying that threw me off rip. I don't know if it's conservative, liberal, but trying to put a state tax on Floridians, you ain't got my vote. And I don't care what, I don't care
this, MOT,
what party you're in.
Actually, because I'm a registered independent in California, because I can kind of understand how he answered that question, because I would kind of answer it the same way. When you register as an independent, you register as such because you tend to vote your own interests, right? See, so then my question becomes, Auntie, what are your interests? If you're a registered independent, because I can tell you what mine is, especially here in the state of California, right? I've been unequivocal about saying it on this platform here. But I ask you, as an independent in Florida, what are your interests, right? That has you registered as an independent, right? So basically, to kind of narrow in on that question, what essentially sways your vote? What are the topics in Florida that sway your vote?
Okay, so number one is going to be the taxes. That's the main reason why I'm still here, with the price of living going up, the fact that there is no state tax on Floridians.
So can I stop you there for 1 second? Because New York, Massachusetts, and California subsidize Florida, because Florida doesn't have an income tax. And so Florida basically Florida can't, float its own boat. Everybody else has to float it for it. So the comfortable living that you enjoyed, and that the state tax that, Gillum was proposing, it was supposed to alleviate that. And so the only reason people are comfortable in Florida is because everybody else is subsidizing the lifestyle in the state itself.
That coupled with the fact
I like things the way they are. So why would I? I'm just saying I like things the way they are. But if I were in New York, I might hate it.
But
I'll
here's
be honest.
The thing. Why would doesn't that actually hurt the cost of living and affordability? Because if you say no state taxes, more people are going to try to move there.
No, absolutely not, because that extra money that I'm able to have it's extra money that I was able to put into my damn portfolio, build my damn IRA, a damn trust fund for my son, college fund, all of that other stuff, and then start up another business on the side of my own. So all that extra money, it makes things easier for me. And because of that, I can actually make more, and then I can do more in the community. I can do more as far as philanthropy is concerned. I can just do more as a man, as a father, all of those things. I can just
the only reason? Is taxes like basically the only sort of issue that sways your vote?
Well, taxes, emissions, mainly the taxes on small to medium sized businesses. There are a lot of tax breaks that small to medium sized businesses get here, so I love it. And
what about
without being a business owner,
education?
Yeah,
but we were just speaking of education a few minutes ago, right? See, so as an independent, right? What sways your vote with regards to that? Because I'm saying, I could, once again, I'm an independent because, I'm in the EV sector, right? See, so I have to kind of do what's good for business and then sort of circle around personal interests or private interests, so to speak, right? See, so once again, I'll be completely open and transparent about my voting position. When it comes to education, I'm more based on a freedom of choice, right? Specifically because, and we even did a live stream, maybe it was a mic like 4 years ago, where we even brought my daughter up, right? We did a live stream on Montessori education. We were speaking to the benefits, Montessori education, especially for young Black children.
I'm familiar with it.
Right.
My younger brother is autistic, so he went to one of those schools. So keep going.
Okay. Right. And it's especially for kids like that, it's perfect for them, right? You know what I mean? See, so in my view, I would be of the mindset of let's just say, in terms of my voting as an independent, something that's more pragmatic, something that's more beneficial to the child, not so much to, let's just say, the bureaucratic side of things, right? And I can unequivocally say that. So in Florida, as an independent, like what's your angle on the education thing? Because that was what was being discussed maybe about 7 or 8 minutes ago.
No, hey, I'm okay with paying teachers more if teachers are better. As long as classroom sizes are still ridiculously huge, as long as the curriculum is still outdated, and as long as the educational requirements for a teacher is still low, I don't think paying them more is going to help them. But I don't think it's going to help the children. I don't think it's really even going to help them much.
But it sounds like you have a problem with like the quality of the education. But like one of the main ways education is funded is through taxes. Like that's where the disconnect with me here. Because like when you start talking about like state institutions, local schools, those are funded through property taxes. Like
I was going to say property taxes primarily. That I have no problem with. I have no problem with that at all. I've always had a problem. There was something that it was a few years back when Jeb Bush was the governor here, and I guess his brother was president or whatever. They did that thing where I don't know if it was No Child Left Behind or whatever, where they were using public money to send children to private schools. I was not an advocate for that. Did not vote for that. Didn't support it in any way. No, I believe that when it comes to healthcare, when it comes to education, pretty much when it comes to just about anything that costs money, I work for a certain amount of money for a reason. My children should be entitled to a higher, better level of education. If I'm able to afford to send them to private school, then I should be able to afford to send them to private school. They should be able to go. If you can't afford to send your kids to private school, that's your problem. I shouldn't have to pay for it.
Go ahead, MOT.
Mm-hmm. So, on one hand, the taxation issue pays for all these things. On the other hand, you're not a big fan of paying into the actual system, but you get a hell of a lot out of the system because of how everybody else pays into the system.
Mm-hmm. If you let me keep my money in my pocket, I'll make sure all that other stuff is done. I don't need stuff like the Affordable Care Act because I can afford my own health insurance. Okay, you take the roadblocks and the tax break. You give me the tax breaks and the people that I work for and with the tax breaks, then I could pay for all
why they had to come
of.
Do you have to understand outside of your own self? Now, I get free healthcare through the VA, but I still understand everybody else's plight.
You've earned that though. With all due respect, you earned that.
Here's the thing. Wait, hold on. Here's the thing, Auntie. I don't think I deserve health care more than you do. I don't think so. Even if I earned it. I don't think I'm more important than anybody else in this country. I don't think so. I think everybody else should get the same access to health care without military service than I had with military service. Yeah. That's actually what I believe. And here's the thing. It's really not that hard to pay for if everybody pays into it. So I don't think I'm more important than anybody else. I just don't think so.
I don't think you're more important either. And everybody should have access to healthcare, but the same quality of healthcare? Absolutely not. If I pay a certain amount of money for
the flu is the flu, right?
No, I'm just being honest. No, if I pay top dollar for my insurance policy and you pay $25 a month, for your insurance policy, there's no way in hell. You know what I'm saying? I'm paying $300 a month for mine.
If the same pill is going to take the flu out, right? I think what we then have to look at is the game that's being rigged with regards to the health insurance companies that are saying, well, you're going to get better this and better that, right?
If you
and
pay
then
for
on the lower end, right? Maybe not, but in all reality, if you have the flu, you're going to be prescribed antibiotics.
Yeah,
it's going to be the same antibiotics, right? You see, so you know what I mean. Sometimes I guess it's a perception of value, as they call it, and that's not necessarily something that doesn't have any sort of validation, but when we look at things like health, public health and stuff like that, I really do think this needs to kind of be like a mandate across the board, much like in other first world countries.
Yeah.
I have no problem giving everybody health care. I'm just saying, as long as I've still got to pay for my insurance, because I do. I don't qualify for government subsidies. I'm just saying I don't qualify for government subsidies. They say I make too much, which I'm fine with that. Hey, as long as I got to pay for it, I should get a higher quality of service and care than somebody that doesn't pay for it.
And you know what, Auntie, as somebody that used to work in the healthcare industry, I'm going to tell you right now, that's something that has to actually be taken up with the actual healthcare insurance companies themselves. They're the ones that do the contract negotiations and shit like that, dude. I was a claims examiner, you know, years ago. I worked for 10 years. I worked in this shit. Okay. And it's just like any other industry that has influence on government, right? Health insurance and the health insurance sector is no different. You see, so they give the government the mandates, and then they push laws through that create these disparities with regards to healthcare coverage and stuff like that. Because there's, like I said, there's examples when you go look in other countries, and it's just like, dude, regardless of where you fall on the social scale, you know, the social class scale or what have you, you know, a broken foot is a broken foot.
Well,
they're going to treat it the same.
The other thing too that's kind of problematic is, like you were saying, that like if you pay like more, you should, like, you can't like people who are on Medicare, when you get over 65, like you're essentially saying older people should get poorer care because they're not paying for it. Like
this is almost like saying, look, I paid $200,000 for my Ferrari. You paid $30,000 for your Honda. You should have got a Ferrari for your $30,000. Like, nah, bro.
Well,
you want a Ferrari, pay $200K.
The problem with that model is that the problem is healthcare is not like, healthcare is a unique market in the sense of, like, if everyone actually had to pay what the full value, like individually, no one could afford it. Like, that's why Medicare exists. Like, no one, unless you were like a billionaire, could truly afford healthcare like over the age of 65. Like,
and you're not supposed to monetize care because it's considered to be under the 14th Amendment of equal protection. You have to start providing for people. Black men, at least in the state of Massachusetts, 90% of Black men are covered by the state.
And the other thing I was going to say to that too is that, again, you know, when you, depending on who your employer is, right, what type of contract that they have with their insurer and all, see, there's a lot of particulars, right, that are going to determine the type of coverage one person has over the other.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And that's from job to job to job. And then you have the people that are on, like, let's just say,
like me that are 1099 independently contracted.
Right. So there's the stuff that you pay because I'm like you. All right. I have to pay directly. Okay. And then there's the people who get coverage from their employers, but not every company who provides healthcare coverage to their employees is providing them with the top tier shit, right? Some of them do the bare minimum that the state requires a company to have to provide to their employees, right? And then what they'll do is they'll let a third party come in and then offer like some supplemental, right? You see, so there's a whole it's a business. Yeah, I worked in it. You know, I worked in it for some years, dude. It's a business, right? You see, so it really does kind of become an individual impetus in a lot of regards, because you don't have something that's kind of, like I said, dude, a broken foot is a broken foot. Okay. And if you're in Europe, they treat a broken foot as a broken foot, no matter who the fuck you are. Your foot's broken, you're going to go in there, they're going to treat your broken foot.
All right. So this is the point that I was trying to make before, just like MOT was saying earlier, just a moment ago. He's got health coverage with the VA, so his benefits are there, like they're up there. You know what I'm saying? With the VA, you have your benefits, you got to pay directly. I know I got mine, and then some people, depending on where they work, how they get them, it's gonna fluctuate. So in some cases, my best interests are not going to be MOT's best interest. In some cases, MOT's best interests aren't going to be your best interest. I'm not at my computer, so I don't see the names and everything right now. But that's what I'm saying. Just because we share a skin tone does not mean that we're always going to share the same best interest. So it's important that you have to be an informed voter, understand what these people are about, but how is it going to affect you directly, your family, and more people like you? Stop trying to satisfy a bunch of people that don't even live on your wavelength. You know, how is it going to work for you? And this is what democracy is supposed to be all about. Majority wins.
Actually,
right?
That's not democracy.
The majority wins.
No, that's not democracy.
So what
yeah,
is
you have basic rights like with the Constitution that are guaranteed. So if every person decided that Black people should not have the right to vote, like that's guaranteed under the Constitution. So it's not majority wins.
Well, I don't know. Let me just kind of
ruled by the people in the majority. That's what I thought. I mean, go ahead.
Well, I mean, I thought that too, right? Until when we took my wife and I took a vacation when our daughter was first born. We went over to Chicago, and then she had some health issues. Coming to find out, she had cancer, right? And at that time, weed was not legal. It wasn't legal in Illinois. It wasn't legal in Chicago or anything like that, right? You see, so when we're talking about this sort of like, this democracy thing and all that, what we got to understand is that this country is made up of individual countries that we call states. Mm. Okay, so it's a democracy, but not in the way, it's actually a republic. It's a democratic form of governance, but this is an actual republic. And so it's not actually what we think it is. It really isn't.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're 100% correct on that. It's definitely not a full-fledged democracy. And then it's leaning toward, something else. When you guys mentioned this is, for the most part, you have pharmaceutical companies that are in charge of everything. Pharmaceutical companies and big multi-billion-dollar corporations, and insurance companies that are pretty much, they're controlling your politicians. They're the ones that are really the reasons why certain things are in certain bills, and that's what I'm saying. None of it's really put in place to benefit.
I would say that they're the reason why most of the stuff that's in the bills are in the bills.
And that's what I'm saying. If you understand that, you understand, like, ain't none of that stuff better for you. Sometimes you get a little crumb here and there, it works for, it helps, but come on, what I'm saying? Like, if you actually come to the table and start negotiating, you'll realize how valuable your vote is, and they're gonna have to start earning it. But when it comes to politicians and the people that you vote for, they work for you. You don't work for them, so I don't have to support them for a damn thing.
But like the thing is, like, you're upset about like corporations and what you perceive as corruption. I'm like, once again, if you put party aside and just look at like what more like what political ideology or what politicians are pushing back against this. I mean, once again, I have to look to people like Bernie Sanders, who are within the Democratic Party, who have been trying to call for basically publicly funded elections, grassroots fundraising, who basically pushed for a healthcare plan that was single payer for everyone. And you have his counterparts on the right who really have who basically put in place Citizens United, not them specifically, but they put the judges on the courts that basically said unlimited money in politics, coupled with the fact that they don't have an alternative for healthcare that has been in place. Not saying Obamacare is perfect, but there's been no alternative from them.
I know somebody else wants to speak. I don't want to hog it too much. I just want to speak on like Bernie Sanders. I agree with a bunch of the stuff that he said. But the main reason why he didn't get my vote, when you're pushing something known as quote unquote democratic socialism, I just don't believe in that.
It's a me or is our auntie breaking up?
He was chopping up a little bit, but
I'm sorry. Yeah, because I stepped away. Yeah, okay. I mean, when he's pushing for something known as democratic socialism, I can't get down with that.
Wait a second. What is democratic socialism?
Okay, so when somebody like Bernie Sanders says pretty much the rich have to pay their fair share, I know there's a lot more moving parts to this, but for the most part, he's saying that you should just be paying a percentage. Everybody should be paying a percentage of what they make toward taxes. Okay, and that would be the rich people paying their fair share. But in a capitalist society in America, just like we live in, that is not going to work. And it's just a simple concept. You're not going to punish those that have gotten rich and become successful. You're not going to be able to punish them for it. They're the ones that make the rules. So they will find a way to make it hurt you more for the most part.
But wait, aren't they kind of maybe more or less speaking when they say corporate tax and stuff like that, right? Where they tax the rich, right? Because we're talking about the companies that actually generate the bulk of the money to pay the people. Now, those individual people, right, they can kind of shield their personal tax obligations off onto the company itself, right? But what about the company's obligations? Let's take, for example, a company sets up shop, in some rural area. It's going to do like, logistics, warehousing, all this kind of stuff, right? And it's going to use a lot of like electricity. It's going to use a lot of maybe water, right? But in order to get this operation off the ground in that city, the company that's coming in negotiating with the city to launch this operation is like, trying to say, hey, well, look, give us the tax cuts on this, that, and the third, right? So who ends up paying for it?
The people pay for it. Now,
okay,
that's the problem. That's what I mean. That's why I wasn't necessarily in favor of tax cuts. I was in favor of incentives. You're supposed to incentivize businesses to grow. You know what I'm saying? You don't punish them for growing. Like, okay, you just got to pay more money because you grew. No, you incentivize them to grow. So you get these breaks when you hire more people. You get these breaks when you put this in the philanthropy. You get these breaks when you upgrade your facilities. Okay, when you're able to produce more. You know what I'm saying? So for growing, you get incentives for growing. Like that's the way it's supposed to be. That's why the rich get richer. It's always worked like that.
That's called ESG, environmental, social, and governance. That's pretty much what's been proposed, and most of your corporations, including the ones that back Trump, pushed away from that. In fact, Trump pulled out of the climate change accords for Paris, the Paris climate change accords. These are the very these are the very principles that they were running before Trump got into office, and then Trump came in and tore all that shit up, including DeSantis. DeSantis is another one.
Yeah, in Texas, they actually, the Texas legislature, I believe, actually attempted to, or they may have already, like put some things in place to actually ban some companies that actually tried to look at ESG. They actually put a ban on them, like, because they were like, no, we don't want companies looking at ESG and putting out those metrics. So like, once again.
Yeah, it's just that Auntie's somewhat gripe with Bernie Sanders about democratic socialism. I mean,
it's not a gripe. He can have whatever views he wants. But he doesn't get my vote for them. It doesn't help me.
But black people, you understand the history of black people, right? I mean, he's not really saying anything different than what black people have been saying for the last 200 years.
I'm a black man that makes his money off of capitalism. That's what I do. Is the rich get richer, so do I. I don't know nothing about all that other stuff. That's not in my best interest. You telling me the more money I make, the more you about to charge me? Man, I already know.
Here's
you know what I'm saying? Rich people get rich, stay rich, get wealthy because they're able to beat taxes, not pay a bunch of them.
What was the tax rate? What was the tax rate before 1960?
Man, you can tell me all of that stuff, please. Feel free to enlighten me. Go ahead.
No, man,
feel free to enlighten me.
Nancy, at some point, you have to bring something to the conversation. We just can't be enlightening you.
Well, no, because you're bringing up irrelevant numbers, and I'm going to make that point.
What I wanted to speak to,
it's totally irrelevant.
Well, MOT, what I wanted to speak to is the fact that on a corporate level, you do have a socialist sort of strata that exists, right? What we're kind of discussing here is where, like, on what level of the strata does the socialist capitalism take place? It takes place on the corporate level. I think it was Renaissance Man maybe a couple of minutes ago. He had mentioned basically the law where basically corporations are people. What was that, Renaissance? You had mentioned
Citizens United.
Citizens United. Yeah. Okay, that makes corporations people. You see. So now, as a corporation, and and as it, let's say, I'll put
complex. It made money speech when money is actual property. Like that's what Citizens United did. It made money speech when money is property, because everybody don't have the same amount of property, but everybody do quote unquote have the same amount of speech. And so that's what Citizens United did, and that's what kind of messed up. Go ahead.
Okay. But to kind of speak more to the point, we're talking about like the personhood of corporations, right? And so now a corporation can speak as a body in and of itself, right? Just like you and I can. However, that corporation is comprised of, let's just say, 10,000 individual bodies, 20,000 individual bodies. Hell, if it's Amazon, if it's name some of the big guys out here, Walmart, whoever, they employ thousands of people, right? However, as a corporation, it can speak as an individual entity, right? And so if you have a college of entities that can speak as individual persons, so to speak, then what can happen is that you can actually push that social capitalism aspect up there as opposed to bringing it down more to the individual people. So really the conversation then becomes, what strata does the social capitalism aspect lie? That's really what this all boils down to, because money's money, and there's a monetary infrastructure that exists, and it all flows the way it flows, right? However, that flow can be shifted to, let's just say, one pipe or another, or it can be shifted into a pipe that splits into the two or the three or the four, right? So that largely has to do with policy.
Mm-hmm.
Because the money's the money, the companies are the company, and the people are the people.
Yeah, but I think what's kind of missing from the necessary pushback against Auntie's criticism of socialism and taxes is that prior to 1965, the tax rate was north of 70%.
Well, Mike, I'm not even actually proposing a criticism of
them. No, I'm not saying you should. I'm saying.
Oh no, I'm saying I'm not. I'm saying that
critique
social capitalism exists. Okay.
No,
what we're looking at is the strata at which it exists, right? On the corporate venue or on the personal venue. That's the only difference.
Well, we're talking about Bernie Sanders' democratic socialism, which is what he had.
I know, but what to speak to Auntie's point, he was saying, okay, well, look, the rich get richer, yada yada yada, and I'm like, okay, word, I get that. However, I'm saying that when it comes to the policies involved that enable that, okay, because those corporate entities could be viewed as people, they can then lobby to push legislation to enable that to happen.
Well, it doesn't need to be even that, sort of bare. Let's look at it this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most of your franchise owners in the NFL and NBA, and you can include Major League Baseball too, those stadiums that they have, those are subsidized by the people.
It's all taxpayer money.
And so when you say that the rich get rich, how are the rich getting richer?
This is what I'm saying. The strata upon which all of this takes place.
But they make sure exactly where I was going. But they make sure that Black people are not stakeholders in this.
Okay. All right. You just brought up a great analogy. I love it. You brought it back to sports. So just like with the NFL, Major League Baseball, basketball, two of those three leagues have guaranteed contracts. One of them doesn't. For their players. There's a reason for that. Two of those three leagues that have guaranteed contracts actually locked out, went on strike. They did that. They sat out. So they were able to exercise their leverage. Therefore, then came collective bargaining agreements, revenue sharing, uncapped contracts, all types of other stuff.
That scenario. Not every scenario.
But no, I'm just saying he made the comparison. That's why.
I'm talking about franchise owners. I'm talking about franchise owners.
But I'm saying this is what it allowed the players that were getting screwed out of a lot of the profits to be able to share in the profits and actually come up. They didn't just keep playing when things weren't fair. They sat out and locked out. So
there's a caveat. Okay, there's
with the elections earlier.
You cannot compare that, but you cannot compare that to how Black people are going to do their voting thing. I want to make sure that you're not going to try to curve that into that. Because here's the thing.
I ain't playing till you pay me. I ain't voting until you pay me neither.
Okay,
I mean, it's pretty simple, dog.
MOT, but check this out, right? But if within regards to that, right? You see, so the reason why you have these cyclical sort of negotiation periods between, like, say, unions and leagues and stuff like that, right, is because so at the point where, say, like, the union has to negotiate with the league, right? The league takes the position of let's just say growth over the next whatever the period of the contract with the union is going to be. I think typically, what is it, like 3 or 4 years or something like that? Every 3 or 4 years they got to circle back and renegotiate a CBA, collective bargaining agreement, right? Isn't that what they got to do?
Yeah.
Well,
okay.
Well, let's just
Okay.
say for the
All right. But hold on,
MOT.
let me just get the rest of this out. So they have to do that, but let's just say if that's every 4 years, let's just say in between that 4 years, at the 2-year mark, guess what the league does? They start renegotiating all of their contracts with the networks and the licensees of the people who do all the jerseys and all of their various marketing partners and all that stuff, right? And let's just say they negotiate with them very favorable terms that wasn't stuff that was projected in the CBA that was signed 2 years ago. So then the union comes back, right, within the next 2 years, like, okay, we see what you guys are doing. Okay, so now we're going to come back to the table, and it's an ongoing thing. This is why this always happens.
And what does it mirror? It almost mirrors like I don't know, elections, different branches of the government, the way things happen every 4 years compared to 2 years, and people come in and out, and things change, and there's all types of different. Yeah,
I knew you was going to try to make
pretty
that
similar,
point, but
doesn't
that's
it?
not how it works.
It's a damn good comparison.
Listen, here's the thing, and I'm telling everybody this: no one's going to beg you to be in a democracy. Period. You stay home, you ain't gonna get shit. In Denver, we made sure that no black person that has this level of idea has no fucking power within the city and county of Denver. We made sure that if you stayed home, we're not gonna come to you for a goddamn thing. You're gonna coalition build like every other group. If not, you're gonna be your ass at home on this Negro bullshit. I'm telling you.
And if you come out, we'll give you crumbs. That's a good deal, isn't it?
Yes.
No. Well, here's the thing. Whenever you start any sort of political campaign, the first thing you're going to go do is you're going to look at what they call a super voters list. They're going to look at basically who went out and voted in the past, like 2 to 3 election cycles. And those are the people they're going to go micro target immediately, because you have to remember, because you have to remember, if you're on a political campaign, money is a limited resource unless you're being bankrolled by like someone who's going to write you a blank check. And even then, I believe there's still contribution limits in place for individual donations. So they're going to go look at who votes consistently and try to go and target those people first. And then they're going to go, if they need to, a lot of times you're not even going to go need to, then they're going to go look at your independent or your swings or people who don't vote as much. But you're not going to get to the front of the line by not participating.
Yes. There is no leverage to be gained by not participating. And if anybody else is, then they need to prove to you where not participating is guiding them everything that they want. The Latinos didn't have no power, and all of a sudden that they do. Why? Both side participation. The gays didn't have power, and now they do. Know what happened? Both side participation and investment. That's the only way.
MOT.
All this other stuff is smoke and mirrors.
MOT, I even had to post a video. If you go on my channel back to like August of last year, I met with the city councilman when it came to this whole micromobility project that we were launching here. And I wanted to post proof. Like, you're going to have to engage with your politicians to get some shit done. Bottom line, you're going to have to talk to them. You're going to have to get in their face.
And a lot of times,
if you're going to do that, it's fine. But if you're just going to pick one,
yes, that's what that is.
One, I mean,
you have to target one that is amenable to your actual situation.
I mean, do you believe the results are satisfactory? Like,
Yes,
have
they
you
are.
achieved? Okay,
Yes,
then
they are.
I can't argue
I
with
know.
you then.
You want to be a collectivist
I'm not
when
going
it's
if they're
convenient,
satisfactory
and you
for
want to
you.
be an individualist when it's convenient. I get how this works. I mean,
Yeah.
I talk to libertarians all day, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work that way. What they're trying to do is, okay, I'm this super uber capitalist that I'm only going to live in a situation where I have to put the least amount in, while I get the most amount out. And guess what happens if everybody? It doesn't work.
Well, wait, MOT, wait, hold on. Once again, I have to kind of think about this for a second. So if you're a super uber capitalist, I'm also assuming there's 1, 2, maybe 5, 10 business associates in the same area where you collectively, no one man is an island. So it requires other individuals to kind of acquire capital, right? And generate it and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
All these people, how are all these people voting? Are you guys all voting similarly in order to ensure that your interests are aligned? I mean, this is the subtle nuance, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
Well, I mean, I would say that on certain levels, and this is kind of where it becomes, this is where Auntie said, okay, he's a registered independent. I as well here in California, right? You see, so when you kind of take this, huh?
I
can't do that. I can't do that.
I know. And now you end up with even less choice when it comes to the general election.
No. Wait.
Like I said, I have no problem writing in none of the above. You know what I'm saying on there.
But
they
that's
give me
not
horrible
participating in
candidates.
the actual process.
So, I'm sorry. Actually, it is. The vote's recorded. That's my duty as an American to cast that vote. But if you give me 2 candidates that are an insult to my intelligence, it's my duty as an American to tell you that. That's it.
Okay.
I'm one man, one vote.
So,
here's what I'm telling you. I can't speak for everybody else.
People at home, I'm telling you.
Well, so
they can't speak. I can't speak for everybody else, but they can't speak for me either.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you. People at home, understand. If a politician hears this type of shit, he's gonna expect you to open your wallet, and that's about it.
Hey, and I'm gonna expect him to open his mouth and start singing about what he's gonna do for me. Okay, I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. Like straight up, you're gonna give me what I want. I'll back your campaign, and you got my vote, and I'll advocate for you. But here's what I want.
So you
voted for business.
I
have no problem doing that.
Wait. I've got one question. Can you give me like an election that where you thought that both candidates were bad and like you could see no benefit from voting for either one?
Trump and Hillary.
You saw no difference in between Trump and Hillary.
Correct. Trump and Hillary.
I
did see a difference between Trump and Biden. At that point, I didn't see because there was no real political history on Trump, and all of hers was bad. So it was like.
Did you see a difference afterwards?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I did. Okay. After he was in, yeah.
Well, yeah. In the course of his administration, you then see that there was a difference between the two.
Absolutely. And had I been able to go back in time and vote, you know what I'm saying, like do it again, I would have voted for him. If I would have known what he was going to do.
Oh, you actually voted for Hillary. Interesting.
I would. No, I didn't. I didn't vote for either one. I put none of the above on the ballot. Wrote it in.
Independent.
I didn't vote for either one of them.
Yeah, but you can't leave it blank. You can't leave it blank.
I didn't leave it blank. You can write it in.
Wait.
No, he did a write-in candidate.
Wait.
It's there for a reason.
Wait. No, can you please lay out what you think Trump did that made him such a great candidate?
Okay, the first thing he did, which benefited me directly, was the penalty for not having, you know what I'm saying, health insurance. I wasn't able to afford it. The company I was working for at the time wasn't able to give it to me. So
what state?
I didn't. The state of Florida.
In the same state? Well,
yeah, Florida.
Well, your state chose not to take the Medicaid expansion.
Hey, but the first thing he did was he got rid of that penalty I saw it on my tax return immediately, did it within 100 days. I was able to start up a new IRA with it. I'm like, bro, you got my vote right there.
Wait. I'm confused here. Are you talking about the individual mandate?
Well, this is it, particularly in the state of Florida, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but
I thought it was across the board. I don't know.
Yeah,
if you got penalized for not having health insurance or having Obamacare.
Mandate is still there, sir. Like he didn't overturn that.
I got an extra $900 for that shit.
Sir, but he didn't overturn the individual mandate for the Affordable Care Act. He didn't.
He doesn't have the authority to. First of all, that's a legal decision.
He signed an executive order within the first 100 days. You can look at that. That was one of the first things he did.
Signed an executive order to overturn the individual mandate.
No, that didn't happen. He didn't do anything. And so what I'm trying to understand is why would they tax you?
I have been penalized every year for not having it since its inception.
Yeah, but if you have your own, if you have your own coverage on your tax form, then you fill that out.
I didn't have coverage at the time. Couldn't afford it. The company I was working for couldn't afford to pay me, or they couldn't afford to give me health insurance. So I didn't have it. And I had to pay a penalty for not having it and didn't qualify for Affordable Care Act. Once Trump came in, it was gone.
Okay.
Now, is that a state thing?
No, it had to be, because that had to be something. I like I said, if you're talking about a federal policy, the only thing I can get he's referencing is the individual mandate, and that still stands. Like, if you don't have health insurance, you have to pay a penalty. Like, and that still stands. That was the whole thing they went to court over.
My dumb ass was paying for insurance that I couldn't even use. Somebody had to tell me that I couldn't double dip. Yeah.
Wait, you couldn't use it as like supplemental? You could use it as supplemental?
No. Like if you get health care through the VA, you cannot get the Affordable Care Act. You only have to use.
Oh, yeah. Because my dad has his shit through the VA. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, it's specifically designed for a specific demographic of people. For when you go to the marketplace, and so somebody like T would have been able to apply, but it seems to me that he did not apply for it.
It has to be a bordering state. I mean, North Carolina. Like, dude, listen, man. I still would have went to another state, changed my residency, and still been able to get health care. Like West Virginia and Ohio does that shit all the time. Like the people who actually live in West Virginia, right, that they have an Ohio address so that way they can get health care. That actually they can use the West Virginia, even though they live in West Virginia and they don't have the ACA within their state.
Well,
go get a what is it, a UPS box? Yeah. You have a physical address?
Yeah.
The other thing, well, I guess so. Anthony, okay, the healthcare issue, we're not quite sure.
No, I'm putting. Y'all go ahead, check it out. I just put a link in the private chat. It says the 5 biggest things, the 5 major things that Trump did with Obamacare. He eliminated the mandate. So I don't know if it's back now, but it was eliminated when he came in. I just put a link in the back chat. Y'all feel free to check it out. I don't need to share the screen and none of that. Go ahead.
Okay, can you continue?
Because I know it directly affected me.
Wait, can you continue? So that outside of healthcare, what else?
And then on top of that, my portfolio just moved because every time he sent a tweet, it was easy to see what was popping. So you know what I'm saying? I'm good.
What was in your portfolio?
I'm good. My IRA is good.
That's still not specific.
Yeah, but how can your portfolio move if you couldn't afford insurance?
Because everything changed. Okay, everything changed for me. All right, I'm 1099 independently contracted. I'm a marketing.
He's saying
consultant.
This is after.
So
everything
changed for me. As far as that was concerned. Now that worked for me. It's just the type of work that I do. I do business with businesses. Okay, they're doing well. I'm doing well. You know what I'm saying?
Primarily, you're 1099 contractor.
Absolutely.
I do the same shit.
Absolutely. So when that shit was in the toilet, the firm that I was working for, everything was taken. Like they couldn't afford to pay me. And there's nothing else that I can do. And I really can't even afford to start my own business. Once he came in, things changed. Everything. But like I say, that's for me. I understand that most people, most black folks aren't in that field. They're not in this state, so I get it. You know, so vote in your best
because I'm not in Florida. I'm in California, and you know, a lot of shit has changed here in the last few years, right? So you know, that's kind of why I was just more or less probing in terms of the questions that I was asking more than anything, right? To kind of try to understand the political landscape of Florida. You've had a lot of people who have left California. You know, Florida is one of the places that they've left California for because similar environment in terms of the weather. Texas, Arizona, Vegas, right? So, and you know, there's a lot of political implications as to why people are leaving. Right. And so that's why I was kind of probing and asking those questions to you.
Quickly, complex.
Isn't that supposed to be how one votes, though, particularly for their best interest? Isn't that what Black people have not been doing?
That's what I've been
what
saying.
Your interests are. That would depend on what your interests are. Like, see, if I tell you my interests are business related, you may tell me your interests are social justice related. Some people may tell me their interests are education related, right? It really just depends.
Right. Well, I quickly want to I wanted to quickly say I read the article that Auntie posted. So what happened is the Republicans, through their tax reform, they made the penalty for not having insurance zero, but the mandate is still there. It's just $0 for a penalty, so it's kind of a loophole.
What they did was they eliminated the penalty.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not going to argue with what he's
which
saying.
is substantial because you said how much was it?
Led to money for me. I got $900 extra for it.
No, I was going to say, so the penalty was $900.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a chunk. That's a little chunk of change.
So I mean, I started my IRA with it. I didn't have any. I mean, at the time, I'm just saying I didn't have any of that, and now I'm on pace to retire at 55, bro.
Yeah, that's a nice little haul at Whole Foods if you do that. You know,
starting with $900, absolutely.
Over $900
over the course of 8 years. Yes. Okay. 8 years later, yeah.
Can't beat that.
I'm 40 now. You know what I'm saying? I just turned 40. So
I mean, that's a couple of super
15 years later. I can retire. Wait, I'm just saying, how many people start up their retirement plan? You know, at age 33.
At age 33, Mike?
And they can retire at 55. Very few. So
I mean, I've seen you get more super chats.
Hey, and they don't have. I'm just saying they don't have a 401k. You know what I'm saying? They don't have a 401k. They don't have pension set up.
Wait, hold on. Mike, what were you gonna say, dude?
No, I was gonna say that, Auntie. I think you got more super chats than you got off of that insurance penalty. I mean, can't you retire off your super chats?
No. No.
Shit.
Oh, come on.
Well, no. Number one, what I did with it's never been taxed. Like I haven't been taxed on it, and it's just been growing for the last 8 years. It's going to continue to keep growing.
No, that's all right. So I will say this as a finance person, I will say, at least, Auntie, I will say I will applaud you for starting an IRA, saving your money. I will say, though, one thing that they have pushed for, I believe it's legislation in a lot of places, is to mandate that employers basically start automatically enrolling employees in IRA. Well, not IRAs. It would be technically 401ks. Auto contributions. Yeah. But no, I do applaud you for taking your gain and putting it in IRA.
But at some point, you're gonna have to incentivize companies to do it. That's my point. You're gonna have to incentivize companies instead of penalizing them.
Wait. Say that. Wait. Repeat that, Auntie.
I said you're gonna have to incentivize these companies to do things like that rather than penalize.
Wait, incentivize them to do things like what?
Like 401k plans for all of their, mandate 401k plans for any company that hires people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, it's really that
kind
simple.
of government overreach. Right?
You know? I'm sorry?
That would be kind of government overreach, right?
No, I said incentivize it. I didn't say
that's kind of see what here's the thing, right? See, so now that is a bit socialist.
It is like a
Bro,
I was gonna say, see, so this is kind of
That's
where I'm like, okay, we're talking about these strata with regards to how we mandate things, and then how we see something in return, right? So that companies benefit, the people benefit, and the environment, as far as the ecosystem, is in balance, right? This is like a tricky thing, dude.
No, hey, you got me with my words there, but I mean incentivize, not mandate. You're supposed to just incentivize those things across the board. Incentivize growth, don't penalize.
I know, but see, here's the fundamental issue. I, as a company, I'm going to come to you, right? Let's just say you're a city manager of where you're at, and you guys have like an industrial park with a lot of empty warehouses and shit, right? I'm thinking of bringing an operation over there where I'm going to be importing a whole bunch of shit from China, then warehousing it, and then sending it on out, right? See, so there's a lot of moving parts here. I'm thinking about your U.S. Postal Service, what kind of routes Amazon's running in the areas, and the other third party logistics people. I'm putting all this together here, and then what I'm trying to do is reduce the cost of doing business as much as possible, so I can increase the possibility of success in that market. See, so what you're saying, okay, incentivize me to pay more money when I'm actually going to come in to try to like undercut as much as possible. Do you get what I'm saying?
It's for something that is essential, though.
But the thing is, you can make more money with those. When I say incentivize it, when you do things like that, you can get specific types of tax breaks. You know what I'm saying? You can get certain types of grants. You can get all types of different things.
Okay,
that benefit your business.
Let's look at what we're talking about here, right? So now, once again, because like I said, dude, this is what companies do. They come in, they want all the goddamn tax breaks, right? See, so what they want to do is put the pressure in terms of the impact on the ecosystem onto the other people.
Right.
And what I want is tax breaks. See, so I don't want to pay the same rate for water for this big ass facility here, right? That has this huge HVAC system and all this type of shit, uses up the amount of water in one day that a whole block of homes would use in one day, right? I got to pay all that. What about the electricity? What about all the other services and stuff like that, permits, right? All these other requirements that's going to require me to come in, right, to do business, because what I'm trying to do is, be a stimulant to your economy. Where, like I said, we're trying to do this ecological balance type of thing.
But that's
right?
exactly what Trump did, right? There's a company called Carrier that he said he was going to bring back manufacturing. That's exactly what he did, Auntie. You know what they did? You know what Carrier did? They took that $1 billion that they got from the Trump administration and went to Mexico with it.
Send it to Mexico.
And left black men, and black men were the hard labor during COVID at Carrier, catching COVID and still working. And they took that money and they still went to Mexico with it and left these black men high and dry. That sounds like a good system to you?
Hey, it's not gonna work for everybody. There was also a situation where, there was also a situation that I believe it was Missouri. You know what I'm saying? When there were a bunch of illegal immigrants working at some meat packing plant or something like that. You know what I'm saying? With the Koch brothers. They sent ICE in there. Everybody, the children
that was in Mississippi.
Got left to school and all of that.
No, it was Mississippi.
It was in Mississippi, but I think there was probably about 250 to 300 black men that got jobs that weekend because them dudes got
right after.
So that was something that worked for black folks that Trump did. So it just is what it is. Some of it's gonna work for you, some of it's not. Y'all ain't vote for the dude anyway, so what do you care?
Well, no.
I mean, is that the crown achievement though? Black men packing meat. In a slaughterhouse.
Jesus Christ, Mike!
You didn't vote for him.
Is that a pause moment right there?
It was almost a pause moment. Almost.
What did he do?
He was making an actual point, but it just
Yeah, I mean, black men working at Tyson's Chicken in Purdue was a come up.
Well, nigga, they be working at Harold's Chicken in Chicago. No,
I'm just saying. You just talked about some black men that out of work. I'm talking about a bunch that got jobs. Look, it happens. Y'all didn't vote for none of y'all voted for the motherfucker anyway.
Yeah, but they didn't get healthcare coverage either.
Yeah, they did.
They didn't get healthcare coverage either. They didn't get 401k. They didn't get any of these bennies.
Nah, like that's the thing. You would have like
all about the
if
Benjamins.
If Trump had his way, it's like, dude, it's basically a race to the bottom. Like Trump had his way, like these black men would have got jobs paying what, like maybe $15, $12 an hour, and then like they would have had no health insurance. Like,
yes.
Yeah, but we know that people at Tyson's Chicken were getting sick because they had to recall a lot of the meat because a lot of the people there were contaminated with COVID, right? And they had to recall a lot of the meat. I mean, is this some kind of like victory for the administration?
No. Whoa, Mike. I think what's okay. See, I've kind of taken this whole sort of last, or let's just say 2020 onward, right? 2020 to 2022, right? So those 2 years, dude, this was like a new precedent. Like let's just keep it a buck for just a second, right? This was like a new precedent. Every fucking thing that happened over the last few years, right? Is never in my lifetime, dude. I'll be 46 this year. Have I ever been locked down in a house? This was the first fucking time it ever happened, dude. You know what I'm saying? So, and in all honesty and actuality, Mike, I think a lot of the things that we've modeled out, maybe unbeknownst to us, or I don't know what it was, but it pointed to a post sort of period, this 2-year period that we've actually gone through. We didn't know what to call it. We didn't know what it was going to end up to be. But when you really think about, when you kind of coagulate it all together, this pointed to kind of like what we need to be aiming at post this period. Right? We didn't know that this was going to happen. That's kind of why I'll stay largely out of the arguments, let's just say, about COVID, because there was a lot of shit that happened there, and it was really kind of unbeknownst to us. It hit everybody, and we never really thought that this would be something that would occur in our lifetimes, right? So I have to kind of take that, and it's sort of like the sum totality, but it's sort of like, okay, now that we gathered all this data, what? That's what I'm on.
Yeah, but that's not the hallmark of the discussion. The cornerstone of the discussion is that because Trump was in office, he got rid of all of these undocumented people, and that somehow black men were able to get jobs. But I question the legitimacy of those jobs.
Wait, was that the hallmark of the conversation? That right there?
No, I'm saying that
segment.
I mean, the segment that we're talking about, like the idea that somehow,
they didn't stay there in Hernando, Mississippi that long. They didn't stay.
No.
I mean, because guess what happened? A whole bunch of illegals showed up there in 2 weeks, and the people that last 2 weeks in that place was illegal all back over again. It happens to meatpacking plants in Colorado and everywhere else. So people come in there, they get the quote unquote job, they get a whole bunch of money from the state. Those people don't even stay. The state don't even bother trying to get the money back because they hired all those people, and then the illegals are back.
Wasn't there a Hyundai
and MOT don't even think about unionizing either?
Oh yeah.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. Renaissance man. Wasn't there I think there was a Hyundai EV plant or somewhere down south.
Alabama.
Just recently, there were underage people working there.
Well, not just underage people working there, but there was also black people who can't move up because of these white people who are standing over them. That's really the big lawsuit. The same plant. It's the same plant.
It's not just there, but it's but it's Honda in Ohio, Honda in Kentucky, Honda everywhere else.
Well, it's an EV. It's an EV plant, like in Alabama or some shit. It's like somewhere around that area somewhere.
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Where was it, Renaissance man?
It was in Montgomery, right outside of Montgomery.
In Montgomery. Okay.
Well, question to the panel. When it comes to voting, it seems that folks are going to have certain sectors of Black society are going to have their own perspectives about what would be the best perspective to vote for, right? How can you link those? Let's say, because Shonda, she brought up an interesting perspective prior to analyzing Auntie's perspective before you went through it. The fact that there is an assumed, somewhat of an assumed connectability through the Black experience here in the United States, right? Well, let's say that it's not an assumed connectability with the way that we go about those who establish businesses, those who operate politically. Let's say that there's not a connectivity to that, right? But how can there be from those that the meat packing process, or pause, to those, you know what I'm saying, to those who are, you know what I'm saying, in finance and within business development? Because
I can answer that easily. I can answer that. Yeah, I can answer that easily. Yeah. The connecting factor to all of this shit is literally predicated upon what this channel has been built upon. This new fourth industrial age that we're in, where technology is essentially the glue to every goddamn thing. Like, you can't name a sector, you can't name a retail segment, an industry that isn't switching. I don't even want to say switching over, that has not incorporated some form of fourth industrial based technology. Right.
All companies are tech enabled.
Yeah.
Say that again, Mike. Say that again, Mike.
All companies are tech enabled.
That is true.
Elaborate.
Tech enabled just means that there's some form of digitalization involved in your business, whether you're a notary of public, or you're a bodega, you're digitalized in some form of way, and so there is some kind of tech enablement with just about every 99% of the business out here.
Yeah, let me piggyback on that, bro. Hey,
Bill Gates said every company is a tech company.
Well, I'm in the digital marketing. Okay, so a couple of my clients, Amish woodworkers.
Wait, say that again.
I do digital marketing. Okay, yeah, Amish woodworkers, the Amish. Yeah.
Oh, nice. No,
absolutely right. Every single company
craft
is tech
shit.
enabled.
Okay.
Hold on a second. That Amish shit is fucking expensive as shit.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I'm saying. Real craft shit.
And it's a hell of a waiting list for it.
The good shit.
And trust me, bro, they live simple, but ain't nothing they can't do when it comes to getting on the computer and making sure their business runs. They have to in order to be able to keep up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just do. So he's right about that. I'm just saying every single company is tech enabled. So that's what I mean. That's what this really leads back to. It's just competition amongst business.
But but Auntie, that was to answer, I think it was Rogish his question. That's kind of what it is. The glue is technology.
But I would also say complex.
Go ahead, Renaissance. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say the glue. If you're talking about amongst Black people, the way I'm taking this question is that, hey, what connects, like you said, a Black person working in a chicken factory to a Black person working in finance to a Black person who owns their own business? And I'd have to say it's the Black tax. It's, if you're a business owner, it's going to be harder. You're going to be undercapitalized. It's going to be harder for you to raise funds. There's studies on that. If you're someone who's Black and who's a worker, you're talking about discriminatory practices, be it like people not getting raises, people having to deal with having to go and sue because of discrimination in the workplace. If you're talking about someone who may own or maybe working in real estate, you're talking about like the discriminatory practices you're going to deal with there. So that's what I think is the binding glue, is that as long as we've been here, race has always been an overhanging factor in everyone who's Black's lives, and it manifests different ways, despite the fact that we're not a monolith, despite the fact that everyone has unique experiences. There's still those things you can't get around.
Well, Renaissance, and in response to that, I think once again that's sort of like the issue that technology addresses, because it enabled us to kind of bypass, in past live streams, dude, some years back, I would kind of bring this point up. I would say, okay, like if we were a group of Black men and we, let's just go back to say like the 70s or the 80s, right? And we were trying to do business with the Chinese. Very difficult, as opposed to today. That's simply just a couple apps on your phone, right? You see, so there's a workaround. There's different strategies that can be employed with this.
Oh, no, not necessarily. What Renaissance is saying is that there's still structural racism still impacts Black people across the board. And so
no, not to discount. I'm not trying to discount that. I'm not trying to discount that. But what I'm trying to also shed light on the other side of the coin.
But there is no other side of the coin. There is no.
Well, no. The other side of the coin is that the other side of the coin is that we do have the ability to do things that in the past were far more difficult. That's what I do want to highlight. I'm not trying to say that what he's saying is negligent or doesn't exist. Hell no. I'm not going to say that at all. No.
But that's the binding glue. That's the binding glue. Is what to Rogesh's point or question statement. That's the binding glue.
Yeah, no, I agree. There are workarounds. I think the fact that you have to go and A, acknowledge it exists, and then B, go find the workaround.
Exactly.
It's the acknowledgement. I think that's the glue. Is everyone acknowledges it exists, and then it may be a disagreement on how you go about getting around it, but
that's strategy. That's the strategy part, right? Like that's going to be tailored to the individual, or let's just say the specific group, right, based on their objectives, right? But we're not going to swipe all of these things off the table. No, these things are all ever present. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, and you're going to need the heavy lift of the government to be involved in that. There is no other way around it. You're not going to alpha your way through a lot of these ideals by filling out blank ballots and then feeding it through the machine and stuff like that, or writing in your own can. It just doesn't work that way.
I think you have a better chance of going that route than thinking the government's just going to change for you.
How do you think we Black people got to where they are today?
If you like where you are today, then we'll just keep it like that.
I mean, you wouldn't have the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment without government intervention.
I mean, over the course of history,
or any amendment.
Hey, I'm just saying, over the course of history, those that have truly been in charge have just broken them damn laws any damn way and went their own way. Like that.
Just like what we're seeing on screen right now, right? From Washington Post, right? As coronavirus ravaged meat packers, minorities bore the brunt.
Jesus
now,
Christ.
worker group says Tyson and JBS violated Civil Rights Act. People of color make up 87% of the meat processing plant COVID-19 cases. Worker group alleges that is a sign of discrimination. I mean, this happened under Trump's administration. And so I don't know, man, if I want to give this guy all this much credit as some would like, but based on people working at Tyson Chicken in Purdue, I don't think that's a victory for Black men.
No, look, I'm not saying it is. I'm just giving a counter argument to what you're saying. Some things benefit, some mess you up. It is what it is. Y'all didn't vote for the dude anyway, so what did you really expect? Some good things came out, some bad things came out. The same way some good things are going to come out with Biden and some bad things are going to come out. That's the way it is. None of these people really give a shit about you anyway.
But what were you paying for gas back in 2 or 3 years ago during that administration?
Probably about like $3 and change. Something like that. $3 and change a gallon.
$3?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
I heard it was $1.70.
It was a lot lower, man. I'll tell you right now, it was way lower in Cali.
I don't ever remember it going under $2.
Shit, California, y'all stayed $5 a gallon.
I can't even remember last time. Hey, last time gas was under $2.
$7 diesel and shit, man.
Yeah.
Stop.
I just don't get the idea. When you talk to us on the Brain Trust, it's not a matter of, hey, we think these politicians, quote unquote, care. It's a matter of when we look at the policy, like if your policies are problematic, I can't vote for you. It's not a matter of, oh, I think Biden's gonna, he's gonna care about the Black community so much, this and that. It's I got to look at the policies Biden's gonna push and the people around him in his cabinet are gonna push. And I got to look at what Trump is pushing and what's going to be better for my situation.
All right. Yeah. I know. I understand what you're saying.
That's all it is, man.
Go ahead,
That's all it is, man. That's all it is, man. We weigh both of the options and we fucking pick one, no matter how bad it is.
When it comes to the voting cultures of Black people,
but I can't argue that. That's what I'm saying. I can't argue.
I'm fucking honest.
No, I mean, we all have different perspectives, bro. That's why I'm sitting over here laughing when MOT said that shit, because it's fucking facts.
Question, y'all. When it comes to the voting cultures of Black people, what's the least that they can participate almost at the level of how the Asian community is? Because speaking with Rael a couple of times in the past, I think he bring up a couple of times of how, the Asian community, how they go about, their voting culture. That they're the
Asians have a radically different perspective and experience with the American system. It's just not the same. It's just apples to oranges.
But I'm saying, as far as it goes with Black people, though, it's hard. It's difficult to get them on, I guess, a large percentage of an accord when it comes to voting. Even though it should be easy. It should be easy with us. But so what is, say, something that you could present to those like myself? Like, I don't believe in the system. Right? I have a hard time believing in the system. It's hard as hell. But I do understand that some participation within it is definitely going to yield, a greater amount of gain than loss. You got to be in it to win it. You know what I mean? But what is the least? What is the least?
I could take that one.
Hey, I was gonna say I'll go after MOT.
Yeah.
All right. So I know how all these groups work because I work with them in the city and county of Denver. So I know intricately how all these groups work. The problem is they have a basis understanding of wanting to participate regardless of what the outcome is, because their voice matters as much as anyone else. That's the unifying principle that unites all those groups. But it's not the unifying principle that unites our group. Our group has the opposite. And I'm not going to come and vote unless you give me something to actually vote for. And that's quite the opposite of the people who are actually participating. So it's just like, look, you got to have a respect of the actual process itself, not the outcomes, but the process. And knowing that this actual participation thing is a slow, incremental system, and most of the time you're stopping bad things from happening, because this Republican Supreme Court that's going to be here for 30 years is about to mess up workers' rights. They're about to side with corporations. They're about to expand a whole bunch of things that they shouldn't be expanding. I'm just saying, these elections have consequences. Other groups already know this, and they also have the productivity piece that they also invested in as a culture. Us, productivity piece is kind of like, tertiary, maybe quaternary, maybe quintenary, maybe sectionary. You know what I'm saying? Like, way the fuck down. So it's
exactly.
So it's like, well, it's just that it takes the individuals that's going to be the new collective. Like the way we talking here, my uncles and my dad never talk like this about politics. I've never seen them do it. My grandfather's generation did, but my dad's generation didn't. So that's just what we have. We got to be the new fucking collective. That's gonna be out here running shit. That's all.
So let me follow up on what you were saying, right? You asked about, say, like, kind of sort of contrasting political engagement with regards to, say, like, I think, Rogish, you're saying like the Black community versus, say, like the Asian community, for example, right? We're going to compare and contrast.
Well, not necessarily compare and contrast, more on the line of what's the least amount that y'all think that Black people can participate within it at a click, in your words, to where they wouldn't feel as if they have to invest the totality of themselves that is already difficult to trust in when you're talking about the process, as MOT said.
No, I mean, wait, hold on. Let me clarify something.
Go ahead.
You still have to be able to participate. Like in those cultures, if you don't participate, then you're not part of their group. You don't get to share in their shared, quote unquote, prosperity. So their group start with individuals who's going to be successful. Our group starts at the group of people who want to be successful off the individuals of others. Like I said, this stuff is opposite. And it's like, there is no bare minimum of participation. There is participation, and then there's no participation.
No, the bare minimum is voting. That's what the bare minimum is.
Correct. But But like just voting to be voting, not really organizing, not really
But
understanding
the
process
yeah.
at all. Yeah, that's bad.
See, because the reason why I wanted to actually talk about comparing and contrasting was because I can look to certain areas of Southern California that are basically all Asian run. Okay, you got Koreatown in LA, then you got San Gabriel Valley. Just was it back in January? There was that shooting that took place over there in Monterey Park, for example, with the Chinese New Year, right? And that area over there, Monterey Park, is like 72% Asian and shit. Okay, and I grew up around in these areas, right? Not in those areas, just around there. Everything in those areas they own. Okay, see, so there's sort of like social. I don't want to call it a social hierarchy, but see that you have the businesses that do all these various providing of services, products, etc. Right?
So those people vote, I'm sure, Complex. Like, you
yeah,
can't tell me.
Goddamn right they do, because see the business owners and stuff like that. Now, this kind of goes back to what we were maybe speaking about 30-45 minutes ago. Those people are in good with the people that are in positions of politics, right? Then you have the constituency that then does the voting. You see, so there's an entire ecosystem that's there. In the Black community, we don't have a robust ecosystem. It largely has to deal with like politicians, churches, people, not so much business. And when I say business, I'm talking about big business.
Right.
Well, that's what your greater, your National Black Chamber of Commerce. I mean,
there you go.
That's been established for quite some time. I don't know if I agree with that perspective.
Well, no. What we're saying is that it's not leveraged much in the way, because I don't even see it leveraged. Like when I look at the Black community here in Southern California versus say like the Asian community, right? Part where I came up in like Leimert Park, Koreatown, Crenshaw area, like that shit is not that far from each other. But when we look at the development over, let's just say, the last 30-40 years, right? Koreatown stayed Koreatown. Black LA has become mixed. There's the gentrification hit that shit, whereas in Koreatown, the Koreans just decided they would start renting apartments out to your ass, right?
Because Black people are dealing with structural racism. I mean,
that's not even an argument that I'm posing here, right?
No, I'm not saying you're posing it. I'm saying that the underlying issue that binds Black people together is structural racism, and why you see things like gentrification that's impacting them. I mean, you see this happening in Mississippi right now. We see this happening in St. Louis.
Jim Crow shit.
Yeah, it's happening all over the country. And so when people say, well, why should we vote for this person or this candidate? You're going to need somebody on the inside that is actually going to govern on your best interest. And so when we ask the question about George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, where do you stand on it? Well, I like it. It's a good idea, but who's voting against it?
Right.
Who's voting against it? And so we know that Black people are 99% on board with it, but we know that people palm colored, they're not on board with it. They're the ones voting against your interests, and they're the ones undermining your interests at every single step of the measure. So what else do you want these folks to do?
No, I was going to also say too, I think what MOT was saying about and people were asking about the minimum. The other thing too is that even if we have people who vote, I mean, you don't discount, truth be told, even if you didn't vote, don't ever discount the importance of going to a city council meeting or going to an open committee meeting. Like I did an internship with the state when I was in college, and I would see like business owners and people coming there literally to committee meetings with state legislatures to say like, hey, you all are proposing this rule on like the amount of days that if someone doesn't pay their bill at their storage unit, I can sell their stuff off. You had owners coming in there basically saying, hey, I have these units, people won't pay me this and that. I mean, don't even discount that, showing up and voicing your opinion there. But once again, you're gonna want that person who you're voicing your opinion to, if you know that they're very anti-business or they're very pro-business, that's gonna affect your voice.
That's gonna affect things. Yes,
it's gonna affect things.
If you're a registered voter, you will receive something in the mail based on your district and based on the ward that you're in for the activities that's happening that impact you. Every city does this. They have to, because there's an accountant for that. That's what your state auditor looks at. That's what your controls and all that. They all look at these things, because it has to go before the community first. If it doesn't go before the community at 10% minimum, then they could be penalized for this, and they don't want to be penalized for these things. And so when they want to build new playgrounds and football fields and other
the public has to be notified of these things.
Yeah, but if you're not a registered voter, you probably won't get that in your email or a text message or a phone call or something in your inbox.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
So that's why voting is important, and that's why Black men need to vote and stop playing games in the space talking about the gynocracy and the matriarchy and the Bilderberg and
I
would agree. No, I would agree with you.
Matrifocal families and gynopotestal. I'm sorry. Go ahead, you guys.
No, I was just gonna say. What he said, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I'm just saying, be informed if you're gonna do it. If you're gonna choose one side or the other, at least you made an informed decision. If you're going to choose to sit out, be informed when you do that, but don't just blindly go out there and do it. Like, you guys have done your homework. If you choose one side or the other, you're not going to get an argument from me. That's your right to choose who you want, but just make an informed decision, because if you're not informed, if you're just voting for one side because that's what Black people do, I think you're part of the problem.
Well, Auntie, I think what we're trying to nail down here is that we're trying to push the needle on this to where we're no longer doing that, right? You see, so if like, goddamn, dude, like, have something, have something that you want, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, take it a little more serious, as opposed to just this sort of collective idea that if I just vote this, then all Black people are going to be saved by Jesus or some shit. It's like, no, it's like, no, man, have business reasons why you're going to vote for something, have education-based reasons why you're going to vote for something, legit have some fucking reasons why you're going to vote for something, either one way or the other.
But when it comes to the Black vote, what is it that shifts the cultural perspective of it amongst the people? Because I've seen, within the last 10 years, there's been like maybe 4 major movements where people have been attempting to do it, but then the overall result isn't something that's favorable overall for a group. Like, you might have, your individual victories, as Auntie said that he experienced, and a lot of other cats in the space will say that they experienced, individual victories. But I mean, are we really supposed to be operating as an aggregate, or simply just because that's the defaulted methodology that everyone else use, or can we operate in pockets of an aggregate?
Well, they say, what is it? Act local, think global. Okay, like so you're supposed to function in the pocket, right? Because you're local. Right. See, right. So that's your immediate environment, right? See, so that's where, once again, I say, okay, well, what is your interest? Because really, what you're trying to do is impact the environment around you, which is going to better that, then it spreads.
Right.
Okay, but then it becomes a collective thing, but it has to be a local thing and then a global thing.
Okay, and this is the point that I was trying to make. I'll give it back in 1 second, because when you talk about the Black tax and we talk about structural racism, which I'm not going to deny exists, but now we're talking about group economics, and an issue that I can't speak on other demographics, but Black folks have, is if everybody doesn't do it, nobody's going to do it. And that's one of the reasons we can't seem to get on the same page, politically, because we don't know if this is a political issue, a cultural issue, a social issue, an economic issue. Like, we can't seem to tackle what's step one.
It's all the above. It's all the above.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, we know they're all the issue, but what's the first order of business? I mean, nobody can seem to agree on it.
I don't think it's necessarily like there's one order like of business. They're all interwoven. I think to the point that what Complex was talking about also is that when you look at the way the political system has been laid out the past 40 years, 50 years in this country, essentially you have a two-party system. You have one party that has essentially weaponized racism against Black people to basically galvanize its voters and will push policy that will fundamentally harm the Black community. I mean, it's been pretty explicit with the Southern strategy. I think when people start talking about like, hey, how should we operate? I think if you can ever get out of a political environment where everything coming out of the right is not just straight up anti-Black, anti-Black men, anti-Black people, then you have room for that nuance of, hey, well, this is my priority, this is this priority. But, when you have people who are literally trying to, in their state parties, saying they want to repeal the Voting Rights Act and basically attempt to strip people of their votes, when you have people talking about essentially saying that, hey, they want to end any sort of federal protections that they can think of, that they basically are originalists of the Constitution. I mean, we know where that's going. We've been there before. So, I mean, we're playing a lot of defense, but if you ever move the political conversation, we ever move and evolve politically in this country, then there's more room for that nuance.
That makes sense.
Closing thoughts?
I'll let everybody else go first.
Well, shit, let me mash out. I appreciate the sharpening, y'all. As one who, I voted, but I don't vote because I have a hard time just trusting in the whole process. But I think just the fact that there is an objectivity to it, I think that's one thing that Black people should create a culture of understanding, that there is an objectivity to it. It's not just largely or anti-Black or racist situation we're dealing with this system, because any people have to interact with their system. You know what I'm saying? Government-wise, local, whatever. It's just that I think that the elephant in the room with being Black is dealing with the anti-humanness of the situation, historical and the accumulated trauma, you know what I'm saying, for those who get re-pulled into that with, every new thing that happens. But like I said, I think there is a defaulted perspective toward engaging the system just off of one's civic duty. And shout out Ryle for that one again. Just off one's basic civic duty. I think that's one thing that we really don't go into developing a culture of understanding. We try to, but then it becomes popular culture, like what Diddy run the city type shit. You feel me? But not something that's taught at the same level as will, I guess proper diet. You know what I'm saying? I think it should be taught on that level, but not to get long-winded. Thank y'all for the sharpen, and I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.
Yeah, I'll throw my final thoughts. Thanks obviously for putting this together, Mike, and stream. I think my main point in all this is just, once again, I don't know really anything in life. I definitely know in politics, I don't see what anybody really gains by not participating. Like you don't get more money by not participating in the workforce. You don't get more responsibility at your job by not participating. I don't see why people think politics functions any different. People have to be engaged. People have to figure out what their interests are, and then people have to be smart enough to realize like what party has their interest and what party doesn't have their interest, and go from there. So those are my closing thoughts. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go ahead and throw my closing thoughts in. Shout out Mike for firing up this live. Dope one as usual. The narrative on this channel has been and always will be forward progression. I think what we need to do is to take a more nuanced look at how we engage politically and not hedge so much on how it's been done in the past, because I think times call for different measures and for things to be done differently. And I think the environment is ripe for the injection of a lot of creativity, you know, us applying our ingenuity to a lot of the applications that allow us to engage globally, right? I think we truly are in a different time. We need to embrace that. And one of the things we need to do is leverage the political space to give us the advantage to do so. So that's all I got to put on it. Appreciate you guys, and I'll check y'all out on the next one.
Yeah. No, man, I appreciate you having me up, man. This was this was definitely enlightening. But no, I mean, as far as the way that you vote and everything else, it makes me no difference who anyone votes for, as long as they make an informed decision and they understand how it applies to them. An informed voter is the only one that I want to see. So I pretty much want to second what everybody else said. Just make informed decisions regardless of which candidate you choose. But remember, you do also have the right to not choose any of the candidates. And you know, if you think they're all an insult, you have the right to not choose any of them. You try to choose the lesser of two evils, you usually still end up with evil. That's just the way it works. That's my opinion on it. But I appreciate you having me up, man. Thank you. Y'all have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. MOT? I think MOT is away right now. So I'll just close out, man. Thank you all for joining us. Please hit the like button on the way out and hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, and make sure you share the video as well.